Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am always, as your host, Stephen Stark. Excuse me, I don't know where that came from. With me, as always, my trusty, rusty right-hand man, my internet husband, John, of John Webster Film, and we are overjoyed to welcome LittleWolfBird and BlueLemonTree from the Silent Sisters podcast. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this very important topic now. Neither one of you have been guests on the channel before, so we'll go with LittleWolfBird first. Just introduce yourself and talk about, what you do in the fan community and maybe about your podcast a little bit.
Sure. I'm LittleWolfBird. Some of you might know me from Con of Thrones as Consus Stark. I cosplay. I write a lot of fan fiction and read even more. And in August, September, I wanted to start a podcast, and I got Blue to come in with me, and we started in January, or releasing in January, I should say. And that's where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. BlueLemonTree.
Okay. I'm go by the BlueLemonTree on Tumblr. I mostly hang out over there. I'm new to Twitter. I just got on January because of the podcast, and just kind of mostly known for meta writing, but I also occasionally write fanfic, and that's how I met LittleWolfBird, and we decided to do a pandemic podcast, as one does. So,
yeah.
See, we did it before it was cool. Before it was the pandemic podcast, we were already going.
And this is our first live stream ever, so
yeah,
we're very happy to be here with you guys. So
yes, thank you.
Getting some warm welcomes in the chat.
Aemy!
Amy's a good friend of the channel. She's a co-host over there on John Webster Film.
Yep.
Aww.
Good kid.
I chat with her a lot over on the Girls Gone Canon server.
Yeah,
I would watch out though, guys, because I'm pretty sure she's steadily making herself co-host of every podcast.
Every podcast there is.
Well, we'll take the help.
We'd be happy to have Aemy on.
Considering we're going at about one episode a month because it takes us so long to script what we want to say, we'll take the help.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. This is why I don't script anything. That way we can go once a week.
There you go.
Unscripted works much better for me. Plus, I'm not a writer. I'm a talker.
It's true.
Okay, so this is a big topic this week. I've talked kind of offhandedly about my struggles with social anxiety here and there throughout the history of this channel. And if you look back to October 2019, I did do a stream where it was just me talking to a camera for a while. And then somebody came on halfway through. But like a year and a half later, I wanted to revisit this topic because it's not like you take a pill and your anxiety goes away. You take these positive steps forward in your life to combat that thing that you feel like is holding you back, but you never actually reach the summit. You just get higher up the mountain than you were before, if that metaphor makes any sense.
Yeah. And each time, the higher you go, the harder it is.
Yeah, the air's thin up there.
Yeah, it really is.
So I guess, all right, I'll start with where, I don't know where I'm going to start. Again, I don't have notes, unscripted. But yes, I have social anxiety disorder. One of the biggest symptoms of that is imposter syndrome, which is such a thing. It's for those of you that don't understand what that is or what that means, it is a feeling of not belonging when you shouldn't feel that way. And just as an example, I've been doing this live stream for 2 years. I've made some incredible friends. Over this last year of pandemic, we made a Slack group that has become our online community, the Here Be Dragons Slack. Most of the people who show up here weekly, who are regulars in the chat, are members of that Slack group. This is our friend group now, and it's meant the world to me. But after all of that, I can still look at myself and go, do I actually belong here? It's my name. It's Here Be Dragons, my channel, on the name of that Slack. And I can still feel like the outsider sometimes. I can still have firsthand knowledge of how wonderful and loving and caring and generous all of these people are, and I know that you are. As an example, I live in Texas. We had a pretty bad snowstorm and lost a lot of work time and all that stuff. And my crew of people went behind my back and collected a huge amount of money to help me cover my bill. I didn't ask for anything. They made sure not to let me know it was happening until just, somebody's like, hey, check your PayPal. And I'm like, oh my God. Even after all of that, sometimes there's that feeling that like, maybe they only like because they don't know the real me. Maybe maybe it's the things they don't know is the reason why, Yeah. And that is such an insidious thought to be having. Oh, by the way, anytime there's a cat, we'll pause there.
This orange one is George.
Thanks for breaking the tension there, George. I actually really appreciate that.
Henry is here. We'll see if he makes an appearance on camera. And there is a dog and a cat yet to make a scene. So we'll see.
Yeah. So, and I've had this conversation privately with many people, and I'm not here to like throw out anybody's names about private conversations I've had, but I know for a fact a lot of people in our fan community have these types of feelings.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's something that's very common in the fandom to just casually throw out there. Oh, my anxiety is, at a 10 today. And, we're almost kind of jokey about it, but it really is like, I think like we make jokes about because it's so dark inside of us sometimes with that, but it's,
you can't help but laugh. Make a joke at it. Like, for example, I got my Fauci ouchie on Thursday, and Thursday night I couldn't take my shirt off. My whole upper body was so sore. I sat there for like 5 minutes, crying, because it was so funny. It's like it was like a physical manifestation of the anxiety we feel. Sometimes you just have to. There has to be a physical release of some sort. Sometimes it's laughing. Sometimes it's literally crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it can be this self-fulfilling prophecy too, because of the way the anxiety twists up your mind, and then you lose focus on this thing, and then you have anxiety because you didn't take care of that thing you lost focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just it's bricks on bricks on bricks at that point.
Yeah, and then you just keep digging further and further down, and you somehow sometimes you get out a little bit, but it feels like you're often unable to get out of the pit of it's really, for me, it's feeling overwhelmed.
And it can like almost be like the way you self-talk to yourself. It's almost like gets habitual that you don't even realize how bad it can be sometimes, where I will, like, the dialogue in my head can be so negative about myself, but I say it to myself in a jokey way, and I think I'm to make it take the edge off, but I do know consciously that's not a good thing. And it will increase my anxiety over time.
I mean, I feel that too. Like I refer to myself as a neurotic mess, pretty openly. So yeah, any of that sort of like self-deprecating, oh, I'm such crap, you know, like I feel that. But the thing is, like you believe it every time you say it a little bit. And it has been helpful, like LittleWolfBird, we met at Con of Thrones.
Yep. I was in awe of you. Still kind of am.
So what was it? The Lyanna Stark one, or was it the banner?
Oh, whatever was the first year of Con.
Okay, that was Stark armor with the big banner and the.
Yep.
I mean, pretty easy to like. It's easy to be in awe of you anyway, Stephen. But then, you're decked out in full Stark regalia.
Okay, let's peel back the curtain about social anxiety there. Okay, I love cosplay. I love it as an art form. I don't sew and all that, so I'm a wallet cosplayer, so to speak. But it's fine. I do it because I enjoy it and it's fun. I did make that banner mostly, but in 2017, when I went, I was for lack of a better term, nobody in the fan community. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew my face. I wasn't on Twitter, but I was a huge fan of a couple of the podcasters because I was already at that point in my fandom interaction where I was like, oh, History of Westeros put out a new video. That's the next thing I'm watching on YouTube. And so I went to the con with the hope of meeting those people. And I did the whole banner Stark, for me, but also like I want to be recognizable in a way. And I don't know how to bridge that gap any other way. Like,
yeah. It's a lot of. So one of my closest friends now, Rachel, she is the Harpy at Con of Thrones. The last con, she had the giant ass wings.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we both went solo the first year, and we both got lost at the Opry trying to find the way to the con and stuff. And so we're like, hey, so that's kind of how we met. And I think a lot of it was able to finding one person to kind of branch. And I was, at the time, I thought I was a Daenerys cosplayer. Turns out I'm a Sansa cosplayer, but that's okay. We all had our moments. And so she found me, and then she did Leaf. I think she did a Child of the Forest. And we were able to, she was nervous, I was nervous. We both had our holy shit, what are we doing here moments, and we're able to find a buddy. It's almost like finding a buddy to help, get through a lot of it. And that first con, after like meeting you and I met so many people, especially that first con. There was a while there where people kept referencing the note taker because I was like, I thought I'd read the books a couple times. I'd seen the current show. I thought I was like all up to date, and I get to con and everyone's talking about, I'm like, where was that in the books? Like, I didn't know about I didn't read George interviews. I didn't read any of the I still haven't read the Dunk and Egg novels. I know.
Oh man.
I'll get there.
Get there. How do you remove people from the stream again?
I didn't.
Okay, you know what? That's your freebie.
Sounds good. I hadn't read any of the outside novels of the series, and so people are like throwing all this information around, and that was one of my biggest in the fandom moments of like, holy shit, I shouldn't be here because I don't know. Are we allowed?
It's like you don't feel like you're like you don't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's like you get intimidated because you feel like, well, am I like a real fan if I don't know all the things? Like if I, if it maybe you know, you've just read the books one time, or you've just gotten through one or two books, or maybe you just watched the show and then you come to one of these things and you desperately want to interact with people and form relationships with people around this thing, but you just don't feel like you're on that same level as they are.
And that's one of the huge, we're not gatekeepers here. You know, you can be a fan of Star Wars, and the only one you've ever seen is Episode 9, and you can say you're a Star Wars fan. That's fine. I'm not here to love what you love and love it the way you love it. That's all fine and good. But I also get where you're coming from with that idea of like somebody says you know something deep lore, and you're like, oh, now I'm an outsider again.
Yeah, it feels like, and it's not. I haven't met anybody in the fandom that is like, oh, you don't know enough. You're, you know, whatever. It's more like, oh, let me show you, or let me explain it to you, or that's totally okay. Don't worry about it. I'll give you the summary so you can at least, you know, follow along with our conversation or whatever. It's very welcoming.
Oh yeah, it's a great fan community. I need to take a moment just to throw this up on the screen, and then I will once again, you know, just for the sake of everybody who hasn't seen it. Yeah, my new shirt, John.
Hey, I'm letting it grow back in a little bit, okay? But you know what? No, you guys are not going to bully me about this anymore, okay? I like a clean-shaven face.
I'm not bullying you. I promise you. Bullying happens where people
implied bullying.
Okay, I will bully you when there's no witnesses. John, you haven't said much the last 20 minutes.
Which is sort of what this whole stream is about. I don't always do this, but it is kind of a recurring thing where I'll let other people talk for the first 10, 15 minutes because I don't see an easy way into to work myself into the conversation, because again, I'm constantly feeling like I'm on the outside and I shouldn't really be intruding on the conversation that's happening. Like, I'm a co-host on this stream, but yet I feel like I'm intruding on other people talking. It's sort of always the way, but that's been, I mean, this is going back a little bit, but I guess this is what this is for. Even, you know, before I, you know, met you, Stephen, like going years back, my whole sort of personality has kind of been like, I'm an outside observer to everything. It's like I'm not an active participant even in my own life. And kind of it's like I go through and I watch other people do other things, and I'm quietly off in the corner just sort of doing my own thing. But it's always been hard for me to kind of integrate with other people because I just don't, you know, it's again that imposter syndrome, which I suffer from enormously because even now I've been co-hosting on here with you and Nessie for over a year. I've had my own channel, and now I've got Aemy as my co-host, and you know, we talk about movies, and so I'm on 2, you know, streams, and yet I still feel like, does anybody want to even hear what I have to say?
Despite the fact that some of your videos have thousands of views on them.
Yeah, but that's an accident, Stephen. Don't you know that?
Right. It doesn't count.
People are clearly clicking on those videos thinking that it's something completely different with someone far more interesting.
The perfect example of imposter syndrome and anxiety. And I don't know. I think everybody has a little bit at some point. Some people have a lot worse than others. But I think, John, that is a perfect real life, like, easy to understand example that we can, that you brought up with your videos have thousands and thousands of views, and yet you're like, it was an act. I didn't mean to click on that. Like they thought it was
Right.
something
They thought it was the actual movie.
Yeah.
I've said that.
I know you have.
I like, especially with the Lord of the Rings streams, I'm like, well, they clearly look at the runtime, look at how long we talked. They clearly thought it was the extended edition of each of the films. They're not actually interested in hearing me drone on about it, because who wants to listen to me? But yeah, it's just sort of a recurring thing. And like, what's so funny is that I feel like the fact that I'm even here, that I know you, is almost a total accident because
yeah, this is one of my favorite stories. John, go ahead.
Because, well, first of all, I had wanted to say hi at Con of Thrones because I saw you talking at one of the panels, which, by the way, I love that during that panel when you were introducing yourself, you actually said to the audience, I am Steven Stark. I have my own YouTube channel, which you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Sure, which, it's just,
at the time, I had not heard of it. So it was not wrong in that moment for me.
But anyway, I wanted to compliment you on your Stark cosplay because it was epic. But I was so. Oh yeah. By the way, Sir Ian McKellen retweeted, one of my streams. But no, I still feel like that was an accident. That clearly wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk more about that once I get through this, because I almost forget about that because it was so surreal. But yeah. Anyway, so I didn't say a word to you. I just did my shy thing and didn't say anything to you at all. Then it was after the con on Twitter at some point, like a couple weeks after, and you posted an image of yourself and it's like a pink.
It's my pink bear onesie, yeah.
Yeah. And I just sort of jokingly posted, I made the mistake of not complimenting you on your outfit at Con of Thrones. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And then you responded, and it's like was almost instantaneous that we struck up a conversation. And I always say that you basically grabbed me by my shirt and pulled me into your circle, because it was like 5 minutes later we were talking about panels and stuff, and you were like, if you want to do a panel at Con of Thrones, I'll do one with you. I'm like, dude, you just met me. We haven't even actually met.
I recognized in you the same thing that I experienced. So what you're talking about happened after the last Con of Thrones in 2019. Yeah. So I feel like I had 2017. I became memorable through the cosplay. 2018, I actually made friends at that con and like had sort of moved into the realm of being known. I started doing panels that year. So by the time 2019 rolled around, like I had friends in the fan community pretty strongly, and you did not yet. So I was just at a different, slightly further along spot in my journey, but I looked at you and went, that's me from 2 years ago. John, get in here, be a part of this, because it sucks to feel the way that you do with social anxiety sometimes. And the only way around that is to feel like you're included. And there have been people along the way who did for me what I did for you, John. If you know who Val is, Val from Because Geek.
Yeah.
She was the difference maker for me through the conventions. Like, she became my con buddy in 2018. I live in the Dallas area. In 2018, Con of Thrones was in Dallas. They got a little Airbnb, and after the con, she's like, we want you to come over to our house and hang out with us for the next 3 days because we still have this Airbnb. And I did, and it was awesome. And it was my opportunity to feel included, like, no, we just want to hang out with you. So that's become what I do now to people like John. I'm just like, bro, get in here. And I've said this before as well. This channel started. Okay, so I come from the A Song of Ice and Fire community, but like, we don't talk about Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire on this channel because I know 57 other people who can do it way better than I can. We just do our relevant pop culture stuff, and it's fun. We talk about whatever is on TV at the moment that any of us cares to talk about. We look at old nerdy movies because I'm not trying to occupy that space that's already well covered.
My God, it's such a chore for me to do those retro reviews, Steve.
I know.
You have no idea.
You talk about old nerdy movies, yeah. The point is, like, the real reason I started this was to build that community that I had always wanted to be a part of. I said this sort of tongue in cheek, but it's a lot more honest than I give it credit for sometimes. I did this just so I could have cool friends.
I think I have to shout out Zach Louie from Game of Owns podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I first started listening to, I think it was Mugglecast, and then when he announced Game of Owns, I started listening to them, from the beginning, and I've been commenting on their stuff for, however long, 10 years that they've been on air, something like that. And right before the first con, they tweeted, and I was like, hey, we want a couple people to quickly guest on our show. So I was like, okay, I was like, sure, I'm here. And then they sent me the Skype link. I was like, oh, okay. So I went on and nerded with him a little bit over Green Day. And then he and Hannah were like, hey, you should come to Con of Thrones. And I was like, well, I really want to, but I don't really know. And he was the one who pulled me in and was you to John for me, and really dragged, when I wasn't with Rachel at that first con, dragged me around literally to places I was not allowed to go, but was going because I was with Zach. Ended up eating dessert with Kate Dickey. That was fun. Princess, I can never remember her name, and I feel so bad about it, but Princess Shireen called me a fairy princess, and that's probably the highlight of my life. But yeah,
good.
having that one person to really pull you in is important.
Yeah.
Which I just have to interject here, because as much as I credit Stephen with actually giving me a social life, I also just want to heap on the praise for Zach, because actually the Game of Owns crew were basically the people who, were the first ones to, well, they were the ones to actually get me to go to a convention. It was actually, I started listening to their podcast, I think during season 3 of Game of Thrones, and that podcast became like part of the Game of Thrones experience. Like I watched the episode, and then and then I waited for the episode to be released, because they would record it that night and put it out. So it was like, I'm not going to bed until Game of Thrones is released. And I actually started being a Patreon supporter because they had a small council, which basically got together for like monthly just get-togethers online. And I guess I can go ahead and say it, kind of embarrassing, but like I signed up for that just because I wanted people to talk to, and so I became friends with them through that. That sounds a bit presumptuous. They definitely became friends to me, and I actually met the person who I hung out with at the first Con of Thrones, Laura, through there, and now she's, we kind of dragged her into our groups.
Yeah,
and
like Laura's one of my best buddies now. She plays in one of my D&D games.
Yeah, but I actually met up with Zach, Hannah, and Eric, who at the time was doing it with them at
Eric. I'm so
at the very last GeekyCon, which was in I think 2016, because it was in Florida, and they told me you got to come to GeekyCon, John, and so I got to go up there, hang out with them for a bit. Hannah got me to actually go to the Wizard Rock concerts that they were having, and like my dancing was like minimal, but I just love that she was like dragging me out to this thing that I would never go to. Let me just say, she is an absolute sweetheart. I was very thankful she actually came onto my channel to talk about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But yeah, I love them, and without them, I definitely wouldn't have gone to Con of Thrones. And so I feel like even before like my sort of engagement with the fandom and the friends that I now have like went up to the next level, the experience I had with them was like planting the seeds for what would eventually transform into just a much larger world for me.
And I think it's like, obviously we all know each other through the Song of Ice and Fire community, but for me, my first like community was Harry Potter, and then after the movies were done being released, I was pretty active in the online community for the German band Tokyo Hotel, and it's still like my heart is racing just admitting that, because through school and all, up through like high school and stuff, and even after, it was physical bullying and from kids, whatever, however old we were, in school. And so I learned to, from a very early age, to internalize what I enjoyed. And because of the mocking and the incessant and sometimes even physical bullying for what I enjoyed and what brought me joy and what I liked, what I loved. And so when I found ASWAF at the end of, I think it was the end of season 2, I found it, and then I was catching up. Yeah, I was late coming into season 3 because I was catching up. That's what it was. And I didn't really, I had the one friend who brought me into it. She's like, you have to watch the show. So I watched the show. You can hear all about it on episode 1 of our podcast if you want to go really hear the story. But it other than that, I was like kind of like closeted. That's the best way I can describe it. And then going to con, like, I have become so much more comfortable. I'm still like crazy nervous about it all, but I'm more comfortable with admitting, yeah, I'm a Game of Thrones fan. Heck yes. Like last spring, right before the pandemic hit, it was my second to last semester of university, and I decided that I was going to have a really easy semester, and I was going to write every single essay. I'm an English major, so I wrote a lot of essays. Everything was going to be tied back to Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, however I could do it. All but one essay. I did that. And so all of my teachers, all of my classmates are like, oh, you're a Song of Ice and Fire. Okay, cool. You're a nerd. Great. And then I went to my last memories of pre-pandemic world were in Iceland. I went study abroad for a week in Iceland over spring break. And every time we're like driving literally in the middle of nowhere, it's great. And then the tour guide will be like, and that mountain over there, something, something, Game of Thrones, something, something. And then the entire bus would just look at me. And I was okay with it. Like, so we went, not, I can't remember or pronounce the name properly, but we went and hiked inside of a glacier near Diamond Beach. on the south part of the island, and to get to the glacier, you have to get on this. It's like a 15-passenger van, but with like massive fucking tires on it because to have traction and out there and stuff.
Right.
And we're coming back, and I'm sitting in the front with the driver, and I have my phone on his phone holder, videoing the whole thing, the drive back, because it's like 15 minutes. And he pulls to a stop, and he turns to the side, and he goes, over there, you see that? It was frozen over right now, but you see that little island over there in the middle of that lake? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, that's where they got rescued with the dragon in that one show that everybody knows. And the bus goes silent. I mean, silent. And then I just look behind me, and everybody's leaning into the aisles like, and then she's like, what's going on? And I go, I am the Game of Thrones nerd of the group.
Right.
Like, all right, take your photo. Like, but I was okay with it. Like, I didn't love being put on the spot. It still like drove me, like caused me a lot of anxiety, but I was okay with being the nerd. I was okay with being proud.
It takes some time to get to that point within yourself, because like I totally relate to that, where like you keep everything you love internalized because there's such shame over being too much or too into something. And it's like, God, like cringe culture sucks. Just making, that's why I get so fired up now when people are just like, just shitting on people for liking something. And it's like, it's just makes me so makes me just like want to, throw fists or something over it. But, but that's from years of bottling up. Like I did not, even in my friend group in school, I did not share with them some of the things I was into. Like I would learn about what they were into, and I would model my interests on them. Can I back up for a second here, because like this is like kind of my social anxiety. Steven. Okay, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna do it anyway.
All right, you know what? You're the boss here.
She's the boss. I created the podcast, but she's the boss.
My social anxiety, definitely, and this is a self-discovery I've come to probably within the last year and a half or so, is that I'm an autistic person. And I'm okay. Well, just to put in perspective, I'm going to be 42 this year. My whole life, I have felt I was like that. The metaphor of like an alien on a planet that, you don't understand anything. And it's taken me this long to like come to that point because of several factors. Like I always kind of suspected it, but at the same time I had doubts about it because a lot of
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that, what was known in the popular culture about autism was, guided by the extreme male brain theory of what autism is, and now that's just totally discounted. Like that's just not true.
This is out there. I have an autistic daughter, so I get it. I do.
Okay, cool. So, I did have the social anxiety aspect of that because naturally, if you don't understand people and don't understand what's going on and miscues, that leads to having some unfortunate social events happening. And then of course you get burned over and over again and like, oh crap, I just, I suck at peopling, and of course that increases your anxiety every time. But I'm also, a social person too. Like I want to be social. Yeah,
that's one of the things. Like social anxiety disorder doesn't mean you're antisocial. It doesn't mean you don't want to have social interactions or close social relationships with deep meaning. It just means that the prospect of doing that can be very nerve-wracking.
It is, and it's
or you don't know how to be social.
Right.
I find
right
I'm like,
on other people's level. It's like, because like where something like small talk would be very like difficult and nerve-wracking and just incomprehensible, like, but it's kind of one of those things you have to learn how to do to get along. But I'm sorry.
No. Please finish your thought. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, in my 20s, I got diagnosed with having anxiety disorder, and I went the medication route and I went the therapy route. I mean, and that did help some, like especially the therapy part, but it helped me to kind of cope with some of it, but it didn't make the autism issue go away. That was still going on, but I didn't even know about it then. But when I'm in that period of my life too, when so much of your youth is dominated by being social, also it also like, I also coped with it in not so great ways. Like, I mean, like drinking to excess a lot, like I was borderline. I was this close.
Well,
probably to being a
I don't drink
alcoholic.
at all, but I do other things to help my anxiety. But yeah.
The awful part of that is like, you drink to get through the social situation because it lowers your inhibitions, but alcohol for me actually ends up increasing my anxiety later. Yeah. So,
have you tried marijuana, depending on your state?
Yes. It doesn't really do anything for me.
Okay,
like,
fair enough.
I tried, it just didn't. But actually, what did help me is like getting to the point of understanding that I have an autistic brain, and understanding the better ways that I can accommodate myself to make myself feel better is actually what made it like I didn't need to drink to deal with that anymore, because now that I understand myself better, a lot of those other things started to fall away. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, but like this is why you're here, though, is to talk about these type of things, to give your perspective, because no two of us are the same. Although I think between the four of us, we're always nodding, like maybe the details are different, but the underlying feelings are very similar. I mean, I'm not trying to one up you or anything, but but I started playing Dungeons and Dragons in the early 1980s, and I was a D&D nerd from that point on. During the Satanic Panic, where you play D&D, are you going to sacrifice your sister to your goat-headed god, and you're a Satanist, and So I learned to internalize my.
But did you?
Well, I did. Fortunately, Matt Mercer and Critical Role and the success of, the modern resurgence has also coincided with my sort of like forcing myself out of my shell. So,
no, I meant sacrifice sibling or
well, with my sister now, you might want me to, but we'll leave that there.
I think that's what you said, Stephen, is we're all nodding, and I'm getting really distracted by the chat because everybody's like, yeah,
they're great people in there,
and they're like, yeah, they are essentially nodding along as well, and that's what I've come to learn, especially because my main community now is the Song of Ice and Fire, is that we're all in this. Like, we all have it to some degree. And like last year, pretty much a year ago, a friend who is, she's now I would say a pretty good friend of mine, created a Sand Discord server. And before meeting all of the, that's where I met Blue. And before meeting all of the other Sand shippers, I don't think you could get you would not catch me saying I'm a San shipper.
Right.
Like it's all about finding the people who make you comfortable enough to, when you're not in the situation with other people that are just like you can still say, you know what, I'm a San shipper.
That's an excellent point, actually. But I think there is a scaffolding above that where I'm not a San shipper. I'm not a shipper in general. I mean, we won't say never. We won't say never. You know.
Yeah, but everybody has sort of those outside the box things that when you find people that you're comfortable with, it becomes fun to just be able to. Sorry,
thank you, lip bringers. I'm glad you love San too.
But there is a tier above that where I am not a San shipper, and I could say that is fantastic thing that you're doing. I'm really glad that you are finding joy in that, and that there are other people that can share that with you and find joy in that. And and that is an important lesson for all of us, you know.
And I would say, like, definitely if you scroll through Twitter, not even very far, you'll run into those people that just want to shit on your parade.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody, I mean, I cannot think of one instance at I've been to every con of Thrones since they started it. I cannot think of one instance where it has been anything but camaraderie. Like, it's just like you said, it's that tier above. It's like, I'm not a San shipper, but you are. So that's super cool. Like, you do your thing. Or, you know, like, we're supportive of the things that we're not personally involved with. And I think that makes the ASWAF community something pretty unique, and definitely helps with the whole, because you have so much almost unconditional support that it really helps be like, you know what, maybe I belong here.
Right.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, totally. I wanted to circle back to something Blue Lemon said a minute ago, or, you know, just kind of give my own take on it, where you were talking about not knowing how to navigate those social interactions. Legit, I approach a lot of my social interactions with a sort of set of rules in my head. You can do this. This is a good thing to do. Don't do that. Don't say these things. Make sure you look here. Make sure your hands do these things and not those things. You know, like, but it's this checklist of rules that I have had to learn over time.
Mm-hmm. It's like,
and that's a lot of mental energy. I mean, it's not like it's a thing that I'm consciously doing, but it's a thing that is happening throughout my subconscious, even when we're live streaming. Like, the way I'm choosing to talk to you is being filtered through this sub-layer of rules that I have learned throughout my life, of how, you know, what are the things that people respond well to? What are the things that people don't respond well to?
Absolutely. I think, like, totally everything you said. I refer to it as my filing cabinet of learned experiences, of what not to say, what to say, what tone of voice to use. I mean, it is masking. It is masking. And I'm old enough and I'm practiced at it enough to the point where it's subconscious, and it's almost like I can do it without consciously thinking about it. But I understand what you mean. There was a point in time where you would really consciously think about it. Like, okay, if I make eye contact with somebody, I have to do it for like about 4 or 5 seconds, but then look at something else, because that's weird to stare too long. But it's weird to not look at somebody. So like all those rules that go through your head. And it is an enormous amount of energy.
Emma, you were so true. The last part of that, panicking because you don't know what just was said.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much me during every single interaction that I have, including like right now. I'm like thinking, like right now I'm talking, I'm like, oh shit, what are you gonna plug in next? What sequence of words? And that's when you get the moments of me going like, just freezing up, which is all too common. I just don't know how to do it, and it's better now. But like going back to Con of Thrones, like and what you were saying, Blue, about the sort of navigating social situations and wanting to be social but not knowing how. It was the last night of Con of Thrones, and everybody was gathering in the hotel down by the bar, and I went there with the mission of like talking to just a couple people, because it's just not something that I'm comfortable with. But I spent most of the time like sort of gliding through crowds of people and not knowing like what to do. And then that's sort of been my standard way. I got really lucky in that I was actually able to open my mouth to 3 people throughout the night. And each one of them were, wonderful conversations, some of them brief, some of them not. The last person I spoke to was by accident, because I had to go back upstairs for a while, and then I came back downstairs after nearly everybody had left, and I wound up in front of an elevator next to David Rosenblatt from Watchers on the Wall, and he and I talked for like 15 minutes, just about the con, about our Game of Thrones love and all that stuff, and then of course we followed each other on Twitter, and that's when I started following sorry, I just hit my microphone. I started following other people, and that's how eventually I came to follow people like Steven and stuff like that. So it's like, even having all that trouble that I have, I think it's those baby steps, and you don't know where those are going to lead.
Yeah, but like taking those steps is an important thing to do. You can't move forward standing still. It's a cliched thing to say, I guess, but like anxiety is a lesser version. It's sort of like a mixed, if you take half fear and half disgust and you mix them together, that's anxiety. And neither one of those are pleasant things to feel, but there is no overcoming it without stepping out, without even like John, you could have said nothing in that tweet. You took that step, and then I said, hey, come over here and hang out with me. You could have said, no, I'm going to stay over here, and you didn't. Like, you do have to take those steps, but that's one of the reasons that I try to interact with people that way, because I know sometimes all they're looking for is someone to open that door for them, and it will change the way they feel about interacting. Even like, so many people have told me, you're the first fandom friend I ever had. Now they've gone on to form wonderful friendships with people who are maybe a little bit more focused on their specific interests, but I'm still friends with a lot of, in general with a lot of those people. But and this is not about blowing my own horn. This is about maybe pointing at you guys and you in the chat and anybody watching this later. Like, sometimes all it takes is recognizing that in another person and not letting it stand, but being the person that will offer the hand out and say, oh, I see in you, I recognize in you that you have this anxiety because I have it. Come be part of our crew. Come
be anxious with me.
Right.
Kelly, I feel this with every fiber of my being.
Yeah.
But that sort of innate impulse that I have to not socially interact it actually, I guess I might as well, I've told this before, but I might as well say it again because I feel like it was a really important moment for me, because those baby steps that I took at the last con wouldn't have happened without me doing this at the con before that, which was on the very last day. There was the closing ceremony. And, you know, I had a good time with Laura and with Mike and Alex, who I had met that year, because she had met them the year before. So we had like our own little group, but I was still Mr. Shy, keep to myself. And so at the closing ceremony, they were having people get up and talk. And I decided to just go ahead and get up there and talk because, as I said, you know, once I was up there, I was terrified of actually speaking in front of people. So that's why I thought I should do it. And I just said all this. I was like, I've had this amazing time, you know, making, you know, these friends. And I talked about how sort of accepted I felt, even though I wasn't social, but just the fact that I was amongst people, you felt like you were kind of home in a way that you don't get to be in your normal life. And I just remember getting emotional while I was standing up there, and whoever was up there, because it was I forget, it was one of the guys from Watchers on the Wall. He came over and just gave me this big hug.
Oz? It was probably Oz.
It might have been. And just like, I just remember feeling such warmth from the crowd and from everybody there. And so I feel like that was a big kind of stepping stone for me, just putting myself outside of my comfort zone. It didn't mean that the next year I was Mr. Social, because I wasn't. But I think it's, like I said before, it was just those little baby steps that you have to take, and so it allowed me to take those minute little steps, which I had no idea at the time would lead me to my interaction with Steven online, and then that ended up, you know, that might have seemed like a baby step when I was taking it, but it ended up being an enormous big step. And you know, everything else is history.
And that's part of, you know, part of the journey. You don't know which step, how far each one is going to take you. You know, that's why you got to keep going. Sometimes it feels like you don't get anywhere, but sometimes you do, and it's just turns out to be so much more than you originally anticipated.
With the comment you just threw up from Laura, the one before that about feeling you can act normal in a professional setting. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. Yeah, you can act normal, but when you're you, it's, for me, it's like we always joke about, oh, that's my waitress personality. Like, I work at an art gallery and theater, and a couple coworkers that I'm pretty good friends with, but we don't really hang out outside of work, mostly just because I'm always working and I don't really have time off. We had to drive some art from where I am at Virginia Tech all the way to Nashville. It's like a 7-hour drive. It's not that long, but we had to return some art. And because we were going to Nashville, I called up Rachel and I was like, yo, you want to grab dinner? And so we all go get dinner. They've never met her. She's never met these two guys. But we all went to dinner. We had a great time. And we get back to the van after dinner, and Rachel drives away, and they both turn to me and they're like, I have never seen you like that. Who are you?
Right.
I was, because Rachel knows me on such a different level through, you know, A Song of Ice and Fire, that I'm more comfortable with being me than I am with these people who I see all the time, where I see Rachel maybe once a year, and yet they're like, we don't know you at all.
Right. Yeah, I feel that, like, as somebody who used to, I was in choir, I was in plays, and you have social anxiety. How do you do that? Well, I'm not Steven at that point.
Mhm.
You know, I'm the person performing for the audience. I'm wearing a mask. So they're not seeing the real me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it is all about putting on the act of the person who knows what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the situation, and faking it.
Yeah, till you make it. And then the sad part is it's not you who's you're faking something that you're
yes,
it's not you.
but that's like such a double-edged sword, because when you're putting on the act for people, you know, of who you want to present yourself to them as, you know, inside that's a lie, and it's essentially then it starts like eating away at you again. Like, do these people even like me, like the real me?
Because all they know is the mask. Because
all they know is
the mask.
This person that I invented to, and you know, but then I'm of so many minds of it too, because sometimes the mask is what I want to express, but it's expressing it in like neurotypical terms, in an appropriate way for them to understand what I'm trying to say. So is it really fake if that's what I'm trying to say, but in through a mask? Does that even make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
You know what? Let's unpack that a little bit more.
Okay.
After the break.
Cool.
Okay. So we have been going for about an hour. This is the point in the live stream where I remember that, oh yeah, you're supposed to say like, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. So please do that if you would. We've had about 40 people watching consistently the whole time, which is really great. We're really happy to have everyone here live. We do have a whole other hour to go, so don't go anywhere. But I also got to make sure we shout out our patrons. These are the people that pay for our live streaming software and are going to upgrade my camera, my computer in the past. And yeah, love you guys. You're the greatest. And our patrons are, of course, Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, Sixto Sounds, a.k.a. JP the Axe Grinder, and the illustrious, ridiculous Ed Tollett, who is probably getting off work right about now. Usually he does about this time. He's usually one of those that's listening but can't respond much in the first hour. We love you guys. That's our High Council, but they're also backed up by our lords and ladies of the realm, including Lady Leaf Underhill, Aemy Blackfyre, lover of poles, and Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaste. So yeah, thank you so much to our patrons. Come back next week to Here Be Dragons, where we'll be discussing the first 3 episodes of Sam Bucky, or The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Which is going to be weird because John is liking it way more than he expected, and I'm liking it way less than I expected. So it's a huge role reversal.
Which shows me that, like, we want very different things.
We do.
Comic book entertainment, Steven.
I can't wait to get into it. Nessie will be back as well. And yeah, so that'll be, we'll be back to our normal, like, just pop culture popcorn content next week. John, have you guys settled on when the relaunch is happening?
We should have been back already, but I'll be completely honest with you. Taking a break feels really, really good. No, the actual reason why we haven't launched back in yet is because we're actually doing an unplanned live stream, which will be this Wednesday, March 31st, which is my birthday. So we thought we'd go ahead and thank you. We thought we'd go ahead and do that before we launch the podcast. And it's funny because we should have already Aemy and I should have already discussed this, but I was working a lot the last week, so I just wasn't planning much of anything. So we haven't actually landed on officially what we're discussing yet, but it'll probably be a mixture of kind of AMA, but also maybe talking about a couple movies that we haven't covered yet, maybe some of my favorites. I know I've been talking forever about talking a bit about Amadeus, which has been one of like my top 3 favorite films of all time for pretty much ever since I saw it like 20 years ago. So I'm sure I'll probably discuss that a little bit. And yeah, we'll probably just cover some different things. So that's coming on Wednesday. I guess we'll probably do it at 6 o'clock. I have to talk to Aemy to see if she has a certain time that she needs to work around. But yeah, exactly.
We've got a time turner. You don't need to worry about her schedule.
I know it's like, okay, now time is a concern for her. It never seemed to be in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I also I just want to give a couple shout outs for some wonderful people. But the way I'm going to start off doing that is by doing a little in-joke. Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard of the Highlander War? No, you haven't. That's a joke at Amy's expense for every time when she says, have you heard the good word of the Poppy War?
The Poppy War.
Which this is not. This was a gift from our wonderful co-host Nessie, who after we did last week's stream on Highlander, and I talked about having wanted to read the novelization for years and years, but it was out of print. She found this for me on eBay. It's a really old copy. You can see the pages are browned a bit, but it's in great condition. So I just want to thank her so much for that. And also the wonderful Kate got me this, which is a Lord of the Rings dice tray for when we play Dungeons and Dragons. So I will no longer have to go searching for my dice when they fall on the floor.
How many times have I heard those dice hit the floor over Zoom? And yeah, plenty. Okay, so awesome. John, looking forward to that live stream on Wednesday. I should be there listening in the chat. Okay, Lemons, Wolfbird, you guys got a podcast. What are y'all doing over there?
Okay. Well, okay. Right now we're working on our was it episode 3? Is this episode 3? Okay. On Catelyn Stark. So we started the podcast officially with episode 2, and we decided that we wanted to
cover mom and dad,
and but it grew so big. Everything that we wanted to say, we just realized that this is a 3-part series. So, and we didn't really, what we really wanted to focus on was the people that Ned and Kat are when they come to their marriage and how that affects everything. So, yeah, it's a lot of characterization and talking about a lot of the events just prior to Robert's Rebellion on both sides of it, Catelyn's side of it at River Run and Ned's side of it at, the Eyrie, Harrenhal, and throughout the Rebellion. But thank you so much, Aemy. You're a doll.
Yeah.
She's a good kid. I like her.
And we also plan to do this twice a month, like release an episode twice a month.
We both had a big uptick in workload this month, and
so we've been kind of working.
I know it's crazy. So we're a little bit behind on the recording, but we're pretty much got what we wanted to say down. We just got to record it and put it out there. So it's coming, but our goal is to get 2 episodes out a month.
Well, Little Wolfbird, aren't you also editing somebody else's podcast as well?
Yeah. So kind of a little backstory. I am an audio engineer, live audio engineer. And my industry likes stuffing lots of people in really small spaces for entertainment. That's not possible in pandemic. So last March, when everything shut down everything around me shut down as well. In January, when we launched the podcast, ironically, that's also when I started getting work again. So that's kind of why this is dragging out. Blue has tons of clients. I'm working all the time again. And last year, they just celebrated their quarantine anniversary. The Learned Hands podcast, the official podcast of the Westerosi Bar Association.
Of which I am a member.
Same. Clinton, Mary do a wonderful job applying current law, American law, because they're both American lawyers.
They're both American lawyers, right?
And applying it to A Song of Ice and Fire situations. And it's very fascinating. And I started listening to them pretty much as soon as they started putting it out last year. And then by like June, I was really bored. And so I was like, guys, I should edit your podcast. I mean, you're doing a great job, but I'm a professional audio engineer. You should let me do it. So then we went back and forth. They're like, so finally about September, they brought me on, and I've been doing it for them since.
Nice. I love those guys too. Mary is one of my like early fandom friends.
She's
So
one. I love them. I love them both. I don't know if I've ever met Clinton in person. Mary and I have had many, many, many drinks at Dallas Con of Thrones. Many, 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 many drinks. And they're
lovely people though. They
are just wonderful. So if you need a podcast editor, hit me up.
Hey, that's what the mid-roll is for. Plug it. Yeah, John. John, does that mean you're looking for a podcast editor?
I might take you up on that.
We should talk.
She's very good. She makes me sound good.
I do draw the line, as you can hear at the beginning of episode 2 of The Silent Sisters. I do draw the line at being able to take pug snores out of audio.
Okay.
Just like
okay.
The next step up. But I also have I can say this out loud. This is fine. I have a podfic project I am putting out with the help of primarily other San shippers, but I am taking, with author permission, fan fiction from Archive of Our Own, and fans are reading it, recording it, and I'm releasing it as a podcast, so people can listen to what might be, hopefully down the road will be their favorite podcast in it, or their favorite fanfic in a podcast format. So
cool.
That's also a new thing I started as well.
Awesome.
Like, I'm just so excited because this might be the thing to make my life like 1,000 times more manageable. So
yeah, definitely.
So okay, cool. Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that.
Aaron M says editing the Learned Hands podcast is LittleWolfBird with an O instead of an L.
Yeah,
that's because Clint always says LittleWolfBird. Actually, if you listen closely, I don't think they can say my name without messing up. It's funny. They always stumble on it, and I'm just cackling in my dark room. Editing.
What's hard about LittleWolfBird?
Sometimes it's just hard.
Bam! Right there, folks. You saw it, like no
mic
problem.
Drop or actually do not drop your mic. Don't.
Yeah, no. Mine is it's aging blue snowball, but like I certainly don't want to throw it on the ground. Last thing I want to mention. This is episode 95 of this channel. That means episode 100 is coming up really soon.
It's really that many?
Yes.
Wow.
If you go all the way back to I Know That Nerd San Rixian, the very first stream I ever did, that was basically 2 years ago. Next week. Yeah, there you go. Get your San Rixian swag wherever you at her Threadless shop. She's awesome. Good friend of the channel. But yeah, so episode 100 is coming up. If you guys have some things that you would like us to talk about for episode 100, you know where I'm at. You know how to find me. But yeah, let us know and be a good time. Okay, I am now going to steer the conversation back to what we were talking about before the mid-roll.
Were we talking about something before the mid-roll?
We were talking about my anxiety, and we were trying to peel back the layers so that we can all like realize that, you know, it's not all the same, but it's all the same.
There's a lot of overlap. So.
I was quite nervous coming on. This is my first live stream. And the irony is Blue Lemon's name is Blue Lemon, so I call her Blue for short. In real life, people call me Blue because my hair is blue. And my roots are were atrocious. So today, after work, before I was like, you know what? I'm really nervous. And to kill the time before the live stream, I'm going to dye my hair. I miscalculated the time. I thought this started at 6:30 and not 6, and that is why I have a sheet wrapped around my head. It's a piece of a sheet, really. It's because I don't know if you can see it, but
it's definitely
I still have hair dye on my head.
And you need to go wash your hair. I don't want you to damage your hair.
Oh, it's not going to damage her hair. She's fine. Like
my hair.
Okay.
I'm the one who told her to do it. Like
yeah, she's the professional hairstylist.
Like she's.
But I was like, and then I was panicking because I was like, you know, I want my hair to look good because then I'll feel better, you know, like. And then I was like, oh, I'm out of time, and then I was panicking about that, and but we're fine. We're here. We're talking about our anxiety. And I just wanted to say this is a prime example of anxiety.
Right. Where you're like, I want to feel better. I'm going to dye my hair. And then, yeah.
And then it backfires on
you. And then it backfires.
Yeah.
Well, you wear a sheet well. What can I say?
Thank you.
But yeah, so I don't remember exactly what it was you said, Lemons or Blue. You know what? I can't say that because of all the reasons you just explained. So I'm going to go with Lemons and
okay.
Yeah, because it only confuses you if I say, "Hey, Blue," you'll both be like, "Yeah."
Yep.
So anyway, Lemons, you were talking right before the mid-roll, and to be honest with you, that was long enough that I forgot what you had said.
Oh my God! Now you expect me to remember what I said?
Yes, you are totally on the spot.
Oh God! What? Somebody help me out here. What was I saying?
Well, we'll circle back. We'll circle back to it then.
Okay.
But yeah, so like, the thing is, like, there was a journey that each of us took from being like, I am completely unknown in the fandom, to I know a couple of people, to now I know a good few people, and I've found my people that are my like my subgroup of the A Song of Ice and Fire fandom, and now I'm a content creator. And there was a lot of steps along the way that each of us took to get there. And it's one of those things where, you know, people, in my original tweet when I was talking about this, I said something to the effect of, some people say to me, you host a YouTube show. How can you have social anxiety disorder? And I'm just like, you don't understand that what I deeply crave those social interactions. Like, it is one of those things that I want the most from my life because it's a thing that has been denied me for so much of my time. I remember being 6 years old when I first felt like a true outsider, and I've never really felt like a true insider since then, with the exception of like Con of Thrones, and even then not the whole weekend. because your brain is it never stops working against you. But that's why this is an important conversation to be having, because even those people who I am closest with, I occasionally keep them at arm's length, because having social anxiety, being this type of introvert, it's like having a battery of social interaction energy, and when it's drained, you're done. You don't want anything to do. I spend a lot of my time by myself in my man cave watching YouTube or playing video games or what have you, so that I can conserve my social battery for the time I do spend with my friends.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I've gone through periods of, ever since we started the Slack group, of where I'll just be like nonstop interacting with the Slack. I wake up in the morning, it's like, let's check in with the Slack. I got to say hi. I've got to get into like conversations. And then there's other times, like I'm kind of in the middle of that period right now where, I've been stopping into the Slack, but I almost need to like remove myself from it because I'm out of energy. It's like, it's exhausting, like being social, even on, an online app. It's not even in person, but it's like, I'm so used to being solitary and on my own that sometimes I just don't have the strength to, to carry on with that. So it's something that I think comes and goes, but you still, like, I think people who struggle with this still need those times when they can just keep to themselves.
So let me ask you, I'm going to presume, excuse me, men, a question.
Sure.
When I run out of that energy, I can't recede like I need to, like I want to. I am still societally forced to be the same. Is it the same pressure for men to be, or non-women to be the same? Like when I get quiet and when I just want to be like, they're all like, there's all these questions of smile or
No, it is not the same. I'm incredibly sympathetic to what women have to put up with. I can't exactly empathize, never been there myself, but I have a huge amount of sympathy of the pressures that the world places on you to always look good, to always be the desirable one, to always have that smile on your face. Like, I used to be one of those people, oh, you should smile more. I quit doing that because I met some women who kind of educated me and said, I don't want to be told to smile. I'm expected to smile all the time. So I learned to stop saying that, which is one of those rules that I put in my filing cabinet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have had like people reach out to me during my quieter times, which I appreciate, where they're like, hey, you doing okay? Which is concern, which is a different thing. Like I'm not expected to be constantly on or to do this or do that.
I've always been curious, so thanks for answering that. Like,
yeah, it's not the same. Society places 10 times as much pressure on you as it does on me. I'm a straight white man, cishet male. I have it as easy as it comes. I do. I have it as easy.
I'm going to let you finish that, but that reminds me of an anecdote from Zach Louie, which I have to share with everybody. But sorry.
I mean, that is my whole point, though, is that I have it as easy as it comes. And most men have it easier than most women. Just because of that, the way our society, American society, is really bad about it, due to the way that Hollywood portrays women. You're supposed to fit into this body type and this type of makeup, and you should be pretty all the time. And I'm sure that's exhausting on top of whatever other anxiety issues you have. And if you have a social anxiety issue, I can only imagine that it compounds it. Look, that's not to say that those pressures don't exist for me and John, or that, I don't have body issues. I think every human on the planet does.
Yeah.
But our societies does not traditionally put the male attractiveness at the top of what's valuable about a man.
Well, and that actually leads right into the story I was trying to tell. It was at GeekyCon, and I had just gotten there, and I met up with Zach and Eric, and we were just sitting there talking, and you know, it was during the period where my hair was really starting to sort of thin, and I said to them, I can't remember if I was wearing a hat or not, but the topic got on to me being self-conscious about my hair, and Zach looked at me. He's like, John, you're a straight white dude. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was like, fair enough.
Well, okay, I'm just gonna flip it around a little bit. Just one of my observations. Like, I think I do sympathize with men though when they have social anxiety issues, because girls tend to get socialization training from a very young age, whereas boys not so much. You know, the way boys tend to play, it's always like, it's competitive and determining who's where in the hierarchy, I guess. But but with girls, it's just from even like preschool, kindergarten age, you're being taught how to socialize in a group.
Mm-hmm.
Just so I do sympathize in some ways that guys don't have a little bit of that, get that leg up,
Yeah, and then on top of that, they don't have the support in the same way. Like
emotional support.
The flip side of people telling women to smile all the time is men aren't allowed to have these anxieties.
Well, there's only certain emotions we're allowed to experience.
Which, by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't recommend a video that I did, a stream that I did with Aemy on her channel, which was her first Buddy Banter episode, where we talked about sort of gender stereotypes and like, what we're allowed to feel, what sort of media we're allowed to watch, and that the whole thing of man up, don't.
Oh man.
Don't, like, you can't be this emotional about this thing.
I feel like this is a good time to remember to plug something. April 7th, Nessie, our other co-host, she's a respiratory therapist, and she works every other Sunday, so she's only here like every other week. But April 7th, John and I are supposed to be guests on her channel. Yeah. Bleep for her series on, it's called Bleep the Patriarchy. Yeah, bleep it, y'all. And the topic is toxic masculinity. So we'll be talking about that too, because I'm definitely a cishet male, but like toxic masculinity has hurt me as much as, well, maybe not as much as it's hurt the women in my life, but like it's not good for men either.
Yeah, certainly not. But but still, it's.
I'm not trying to take, I'm not trying to downplay what it has done to women, but it has harmed men in general as well.
Yeah,
it's turned us into unfeeling, uncaring assholes a lot of the time. And John and I are both going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
So but I guess I had never considered, and that's why I like having lots of different perspectives on these things, the sort of compounding nature of being a woman with an anxiety issue, especially a social anxiety issue, and the way that society places pressures on you to be pretty and to be demure and to be to be all the things that a woman is supposed to be. You're supposed to be this perfect creature all the time.
I think
as a man with a few daughters, that really helped change my perspective on womanhood too, is watching my girls grow up and learning about the challenges that they faced.
And then Geekstarilla just read my mind. I am a white woman
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I can't even.
Well,
I can't even.
Go ahead, John.
We're always doing that.
We do that. Sometimes it happens. We both clicked it, the same thing, and it pops in and out. I'm totally with you. Now, we've obviously had people of color on the channel many times. You two are here specifically because I tweeted like, "Hey, who wants to talk about this?" And Ms. Lemon, and I'm like, "Okay, Blue Lemons, I choose you." And she's like, "But it's a dual battle. You should get my podcast partner too." And you both jumped right on board real quick. So that's who's here. Obviously, we've had some really wonderful fan community contributors who are people of color on here, but yeah, it's worse for that. You're right. Being a person of color adds another level of difficulty to every social interaction because society, the way that society views you, and tells you who you should be, and then not living up to that is a huge source of where that anxiety comes from, I think.
Yeah.
Because you're
the fact that the society is built to work for someone else, namely well-off white men. There's so many levels where someone doesn't fit in, and that each level, like you said, compounds and just makes everything even worse. And I think that's what we've said it a couple times. The great thing about fandom is you find your allies and you recognize, for whatever the situation is, you find your ally and you have their back. Like I always go, as a live audio engineer, there is no statistic that tells me what percentage of the workforce I am. It's less than 3%. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a list in my head that, on top of all the social things that I'm trying to navigate in the workplace, I have a list in my head of like, okay, if this sort of situation comes up, this is which male coworker I'm going to go to. If this situation, this is who I'll go to. And like, it kind of works the same way in fandom, as you find the ally for the situation. Like, and I hope that, we can all move towards being an ally for anybody in any situation, but it's having a person to kind of ground you, to anchor you, to be the buffer, so that you can collapse while they kind of
That's what being a good ally is, though.
Yeah.
And people have been a good ally to me before. I try to be an ally to other people, but you're right. It's an important thing for me to have an ally, not just to be an ally, but to have one as well. Because sometimes, like, you guys, you may have, if you've been watching the chat, my mother is here every week. She is a fixture of our chats and live streams. She's the
word is treasure, Stephen.
Yes, she is a treasure of our community. She is a wonderful human being. Old school nerd, was reading Spider-Man comics and watching Star Trek when she was a teenager. Like, we go to Marvel movies together. Anyway, lovely person, does not have social anxiety disorder at all. She's one of my biggest allies. And she's my mom, sure, but like, she is a person who is not afraid to be a person for me to lean on, but to also kick me in the butt and say, you can't get away with this anymore. The world the world has expectations of you that you don't have to live up to, but life has necessities for you that you do have to live up to. And occasionally I get into these self-fulfilling depressive cycles, and she's one of those people that's like, slap me around the head and shoulders and say, hey, cut that crap out.
Yeah.
And it's important to have that even as a straight white man who I don't need somebody to break the glass ceiling for me or to give me an opportunity to get that job interview. But as somebody with an anxiety and disorder that leads to depressive cycles, I do need that ally.
Well, I think that's what's part of what's so wonderful about just our community. As I think we're all able to be that for each other, and it's cyclical. Oh, I can't say the word cyclical. We all kind of, I think, need that at different times, and you guys have been just an absolute godsend for me.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like I kind of know you two ladies through Twitter, through the WBA Slack, through, those type of things. But like our circles don't overlap hugely, but they do overlap some. But like you guys, I'm sure, have your tighter knit group that is your circle. And do you find that your small circle from the fandom is like the best group of friends you've ever had in your life? I mean, it's fair to give it a good hard thought, but
yes, and I mean yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. It's just talking from like the Sansan community, these are people that are awesome to each other, like really awesome to each other. I've just got from someone I never met and hardly spoke to on very few occasions, actually sent me a Christmas card. So I mean, she had art commissioned to make Christmas cards to send to everyone that wanted them.
All you had to say is, "Hey, I'd like a Christmas."
Yeah,
card.
just cool stuff like that. People like who just even knew somebody was like from a Discord chat, they liked a certain thing, and then someone wrote a fanfic about it and gifted it to them. It was just cute. It's cute.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, they're very cool to each other. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Finish your thought.
But I mean, just being totally honest, there's still that part of me that even feels that even with that awesomeness, there still feels a certain wall I mean, I guess you guys have been to more cons than me, so I've only been to one. So I'm sure like I'm a little behind on this, but like I haven't had that experience that you have, but I had a little bit. But
it's coming. Just you wait.
I know. I feel like mostly I'm known for like writing meta, and for a little while there, I kind of got to feel like my main way of interacting with people is they would send me asks on my Tumblr and I would answer them, and I felt almost like a meta spewing machine, and I know this, and I hate myself for even feeling like this. It's like, I see other people like kind of, having those close bonded friendships and just being like super tight with each other. And I still feel like I haven't found that quite yet, but okay. I'm getting there.
This is really interesting.
I'm sorry. Like now, oh God, I feel like I'm just like being like super vulnerable and
honest. This is honest. This is maybe.
And I have to say, like, I know exactly what you're saying, and I've said as much in the past to like Stephen and Nessie and other people in our group. Like, I love them all so much, and they are the best friends that I've ever had. And which is a joy for me because as someone who has never had it easy making friends, I can count the number of true friends I've had, like before the past year or so, just on a couple of fingers. And so this has been life-changing for me. But yet, my mind is still lodged in
Mm-hmm.
that experience of, especially in the previous cons where, I mean, like it got better with Con of Thrones where I had Laura and then Mike and Alex, so we had our little group, but still that's like a small tight-knit group of people that you've come to know through those cons. That's like something that's different from saying you're going to go into this next con with like this huge, enormous group of, like people that you've grown super close to. It's just, it's something different because the bond that I had formed with them was more sort of in my wheelhouse, almost, of just a couple of people, and we were hanging together like off in the corner. What I'm scared of, and I know this is ridiculous, but I am so like, I have this innate fear of going to the next Con of Thrones and like walking up to everybody and they're like, no, we were just kidding. We actually don't want
Right?
to.
And it's so like, but like, yes, incredibly relatable, John.
Yes.
I know it's horrible of me, but
No,
like, I can't.
My biggest fear of going to a con is it's going to be a terrible experience, and like I'm going to go there and I'm going to try to talk to people, and it's going to be like awkward and awful, and they're just going to look at me like.
Yeah.
Like
it's really easy to fake liking you on the internet for a couple of minutes at a time, but like now that you're here in person, I'd rather go hang out with this other person who's just way cooler and more interesting than you.
Yeah. I also have and I'm so sorry too. I know there are so many people that I've done this to. Is I've met you at cons. I've met you at multiple cons. We've had drinks. But you change your clothes, you change your wig, you change your makeup.
Right.
I have no idea who you are anymore. I really go by what people are wearing when I meet you. And I'm like, okay, Clarissa has the green shirt, and then Clarissa changes her shirt the next day because.
And you forget who she is.
And I'm like, I know who Clarissa is, and I know who the person with the green shirt is, but now. You no longer wearing a green shirt. So like that's my biggest fear at cons. In addition to, and then because of that, they're like, oh, well, we don't really want to do anything with you anymore because you can't remember us, or you didn't remember our name or our face. And so it's like the other side of that coin. So please, if I forget you, just remind me.
Yeah, don't take it for. Also, side note, in the context of the convention, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people there.
Yep.
And everybody is distracted because they're going to this panel and looking at that cosplay and meeting that celebrity, and don't take it personal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because like that's a thing too. Like if people forget your name and you have social anxiety, well, it must be because I'm not worth remembering. Yeah, but the convention is not a good place to apply that rule. Just for future reference.
Can I tell you what happened at the one and only con I went to?
Sure.
Okay. So of course this is a very new situation for me. And of course, like my anxiety is like up to a 10 at that point. But fortunately I was there meeting some other Sansan fans, and there's 2 of them. So I wasn't alone. So it was good. And we were waiting in line for a signing with Rory McCann. Yes. And so, of course, now my anxiety is up to a 12. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And we're just standing there waiting. And of course, it does. And I'm trying to put on my fake it face and, figure out, okay, what am I going to have him sign on my book? Because I was like one of the only people there that had a Song of Ice and Fire book for him to sign. Anyway, but so the moment finally comes. Like I've already worked myself up to it. I'm all psyched. I'm hyped. I'm ready to get through this. And he says hi to me and I don't say a fucking thing. They just give him my book and I can't even talk at that point. I don't know if I did say anything. I'm not even sure. It was like all a blur. I blacked out and then I know I shook his hand and I walked away. He has nice hands, by the way. And afterwards, the crash of being so hyped up, like we were supposed to go to the panel where he was going to talk about the last season of Game of Thrones and do the Q&A. I was crashing so hard from that. I just got almost like physically sick, just weak. I had to go back to the hotel and have a lie down.
Yeah,
because I was messed up. Like, yeah. I was done. Like,
and then that's why this topic specifically, though, not just social anxiety, but social anxiety and fandom engagement is this topic, because going to the convention is the highlight of my year.
Yeah.
And, you know, last year we didn't get that and it crushed me. And this year, like, we already are, like, we've got hotel rooms booked. Me and John are going to be roomies, and several of our regulars from chat are also going to be, like, we're all staying in a hotel. We're talking about getting an Airbnb after the convention for a few days. But you're right. Like, it is inherently a social experience, the convention. And it's not always easy to navigate that. One of the panels I think I'll be doing this year is like getting the most out of your convention experience while having an anxiety or shyness. I can't remember what it's called, but Sue the Fury, who runs Con of Thrones.
Sue. Yeah,
wonderful human being. You know, I did an I Know That Nerd with her. I interviewed her a few months ago. She's awesome. But she's like, yes, we're going to do this panel. It's going to be on Friday or maybe early Saturday, because I want people to get the most out of this. If you're going to show up, if you're going to take that step to come to the convention, to step beyond your social anxiety and to take that step, I want you to have the best tools possible to enjoy that whole weekend, because you paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get there. You shouldn't feel like you should not have to feel like somebody who just needs to stay on the outside and not interact with people. You know, literally, come talk to me. I will be your gateway.
I will be in the front row of that panel.
Yeah.
With my notebook, taking notes again.
Well, okay. The note taker.
The note taker.
Y'all, we've got about maybe 10 minutes left in the stream, a little more. So if there are any thoughts or feelings that you want to share before the end, feel free to bring them up now. Also, to the chat, like, I throw the gate open to all of you. If there's something that you would like us to specifically discuss, please, by all means, give us drop a thing in the chat, and we'll discuss it.
I do have to say, it's, and we talked about this, not having Con of Thrones last year, which I'm still convinced was my fault, because, I decided to, get social and engage with the fandom. So, of course, Con of Thrones didn't happen. A whole pandemic happened because of me, because I dared to talk to people. But it's like the whole reason why we even ended up having a Slack group, and it actually started with we were having not Zoom calls, but Google Hangouts in another Slack when Ice and FireCon wasn't happening last year. It was like, no, we have to do something where we get to talk with each other and where we get to be social. And I think that the Here Be Dragon Slack was kind of born out of that, like a need to engage with the people who were coming to watch us each week. And because we weren't going to have the conventions, there needed to be some way to just engage with everybody. And it became so much more, I think, than we could even guess, because we've all become family. We've become so close.
Yes, fattest leash.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what to say other than hell yes.
Yes.
So, John, kind of, you're saying like you feel like starting to get social caused the pandemic, so you can't go to a con and be social. Similarly to that, Ice and Fire Con used to be 30 minutes from my house. And I was like, oh, I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough. I can't go, all of that. And then now it's not 30 minutes from my house anymore. So, I mean, it's outgrown. It's outgrown the old location, but it's like I feel that like I decided not to go, and then it moved.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it's so much about what you choose to not do. It's not just that I don't feel happy about this. It's that you get to this point where like I'm not going to do that because I can't handle the anxiety of even thinking about going.
Yeah.
And yes, Leech, imposter syndrome plays into that because you don't feel like you belong. And like, oh my gosh. And then if you do go, you're sitting there like, are they going to figure it out? When are they going to figure it out? And then when that happens, how canceled am I? You know?
Well, and again, that goes so far beyond just my fandom engagement. Like I said before, it's pretty much been my entire life. I just constantly feel like an imposter in most situations. So as a result, that's just, I have severe anxiety about social situations. And it's funny because I don't even know if I would have called, it social anxiety before, like you started talking about your battle with it, Stephen, because for years it was just, I'm shy.
Yeah, but shy, that's such a, like, that doesn't cover what social anxiety really is.
Yeah. And like now I recognize that every time I've been in like an actual social situation, I have this crippling fear that overtakes me, and I'm not able to like even attempt to function in those situations.
Yeah.
It's like the funny part though about like the imposter syndrome, because I also can, yes, it's absolutely crippling. Like where you don't feel like you're good enough to belong here. Like, I don't know who's measuring this, but apparently we are not good enough to be in the fandom of something we love. The double-edged sword to that is that I am also a really spiteful bitch, and I will, and a spite gets me through a lot of things. Like if you tell me I can't do something, then I really want to do it more.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I'm not spiteful, but like I can get pissed off about something for sure. I feel that. Joe S. Oh, please go ahead.
I just want to say that at some day in the future when we can go back to cons, come say hello to me. Chances are you will either have blue hair or I'll be dressed up as Sansa. But come see me. I will have my therapy dog with me. Her name is Lucy. She's a pug. She gets me through, like, having her with me. I'm not focusing on what other people are doing or might be thinking about me. I'm focusing on taking care of her and making sure she doesn't shit on the floor. She's still learning.
Yeah.
But she's super friendly, and she's not the type of dog that I'm not, oh no, you can't pet her. Like, no, please come get the love from her. She thinks she does not get any love at all. So I just want to throw that out, that at the next, she's a therapy plug, Aemy. And so at the next con or whatever, just come get
it's
some
right
love.
there. It's sitting right there for you. It's
and
on the
she
silver
will
platter.
sit on your lap. It's your favorite thing.
Therapug. Come on. How do you not? How do you not?
Oh, man.
Anyway,
she already has an Instagram. Dang it. That's a good one.
So I do want to address, Joe S. has a question. Most of their interactions with the fandom was through Twitter, and felt initially terrible, and it became better. Does Twitter increase your anxiety? Does it increase your anxiety?
So I joined Twitter for the first time in January, okay? And I had been avoiding it for a long time, and I swore up and down I was never joining Twitter, okay? Yeah, thanks. Because from what I had always understood, it can be an absolute cesspit over there of terrible people, and I just no, miss me with that. So I'd rather just stick to my little hidey hole on Tumblr because I can block out a lot of things that I just don't want to see. But that even going to Tumblr from like being active on the Westeros.org boards, that's what I kind of feel like Twitter was to me. Like it's like extension of the Westeros.org boards where it's just the fandom at large. And as much as we like to say, and it is true. Okay, it is true. This is a great fandom. It is an awesome fandom. There's so many wonderful, nice, and highly intelligent people in this fandom that I would love to get to know. There's also a lot of unpleasant people with terrible opinions.
Not getting into naming names.
No, we're not doing that. But okay, we all know somebody like that. We know somebody like that, and I wasn't into the whole fandom free for all, But when I finally actually got on Twitter, it was not as bad as I thought, but then also kind of what I expected too. So, but I guess I don't know. I kind of keep myself at an arm's length on there, not getting into too many conversations or deep conversations yet.
Yeah, I get a little. In the sense of what if they think that's a stupid tweet, like. That sort of anxiety I do get with Twitter, but I don't go down the rabbit holes with it. Although the Suez Canal jokes are really funny right now, so
yeah.
Greg,
wait, is Kelly still around? We probably shouldn't.
Yeah, be careful. Don't talk about the what is it, the Ever Given too much around Kelly. She'll get mad.
But I don't. It's weird for me because before I became engaged with like people like Steven and other people in the Twitter for me was just this thing that I looked at that was like an abomination. That I had a Twitter account, but I hated getting on there because it was just a mixture of stuff that was going to annoy me or that I just didn't care about. But then once I started actually engaging with people in the fandom and making friends, then you learn to sort of curate your Twitter feed. And if there's certain things you don't want to hear about, you can like mute words and do that sort of thing. But once it becomes a way to like engage with friends and stuff like that, then I think you start to see the positive. And so it doesn't like, I didn't find that it interacted with my anxiety in a negative way because it was the vehicle through which my social interaction started to happen. Now that said, ever since we started up the Slack group, I prefer just hanging around in Slack by far because that's actually just talking with our friends. But I still go on Twitter and, there's fun to be had. I'm not as much of a sort of, I don't have the negative view on Twitter that I did, a couple of years ago. So. Yeah.
I don't really have anxiety associated with Twitter either. But as you say, John, I have curated it to be like, I follow my fan community there. If Twitter brings me anxiety, it's usually geopolitical things, Yeah. I'm a pretty left-leaning person, as most of you know. Maybe not as far left as everyone else is. I'm not a vegan or anything like that. So I could go lefter, but there are people who post things sometimes that that bother me. And I will say this too, like, I don't judge a person if they're conservative. That's great. You can be a conservative without being an asshat. And you can be liberal and be an asshat too. But so like, I have friends who are much more conservative than I am. But if I have Twitter anxiety, that's 100% going to be about politics every time. Yeah. So, well, it is 8:00 Eastern. This is usually when we wrap up.
I have to say, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. It's been great just to talk about some of this stuff because we've dabbled in this conversation before, but it feels really nice to be able to talk sort of openly and honestly about some of the weird mental exercises that I go through.
Yeah. Well, again, this is an important conversation to be had. It's therapeutic for me. It's probably been somewhat therapeutic for each of you. It's probably been helpful to everybody who's here in the chat, been listening along. Even if I know there's a few people who are regulars who are like, nope, I'm extroverted. I don't have social anxiety. Don't have any of those issues. But it can still be, Aemy and Laura really both come to mind. But like, there is still value for them to gain out of this and learning how people that they care about, how their minds work, how to be that better ally in the moment. Because the better ally isn't always like dragging the socially anxious person into a social situation. Sometimes that's the good ally thing to do. Sometimes it's recognizing when they're done and helping them find the door to get out of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or even if, like, for me, it's sometimes I don't necessarily want to go out and I don't want to do the thing, but I want the invitation. Sometimes it's I don't have the energy to be up in it, whatever it is. Like if you're at a bar or something, I don't have the energy to be up in the crowd, but I still want to be there, but I can't be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizing, hey, go find this little corner over here, this nice little table. I'll bring you your drinks and I'll check on you periodically. Like sometimes it's as simple as that.
So, sometimes I'm happy just being around people and taking all their good energy in and their good social energy in and not having to do anything. And so that's okay too. Like
it's like watching a really great TV show.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm very involved, but I'm just over here. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that I have really anything else to wring out of this topic tonight. If anybody has anything, like I haven't seen anything in the chat in a little while. I've been watching it. If anybody's got anything to bring up, great. If not, we'll move on to saying good night to everyone. Lemons?
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say
have a process. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just I was watching the chat and so many people chimed in with like some very sweet, nice comments about us and our podcast, and like I saw it and thank you so much. It's like, oh my God, it just even blows my mind that anyone even listened to us. So thank you very much.
And hopefully we will have episode 3 all about Mom, aka Cat, coming out hopefully this week, maybe.
Yeah,
we're getting the goal is April 1st.
Yeah.
It's April 1st. It might be the 2nd. Who knows? Yes. Thank you guys so much
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah. This is
it was a genuine pleasure. Ladies, if I may refer to you as ladies. It was a genuine pleasure having you both.
We go by High Heretics on.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't tend to assume people's genders, but silent sisters, not silent siblings,
Yeah.
But it was a genuine pleasure getting to know both of you a little bit better. And thank you for coming to share this topic because it's a big one, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's one that's near and dear to my heart, and that I like to touch on it every once in a while. But so genuinely, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't wait to. I don't know if we're gonna advance to hugs right away, just because now
I'm a fist bump person in general. I'm not much of a hugger, although
I just with the pandemic, I'm like maybe I don't want to hug people anymore. But I will. I can't wait to fist bump you.
Yeah.
Stephen, you're getting a tackle on a bear hug.
John, we're sharing a hotel room. You're crazy if you think we're not spooning at night, okay?
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'll let John do the hugging for me. I'll just
okay. Fair enough.
I do just want to finish off by saying I really appreciate this. It does like help just knowing that other people's recognize the stuff and that it's not
You're
just
not alone.
So it's not just something that I'm struggling with on my own, and even though it's still hard to cross that sort of line of fully like accepting the good that I have and all that stuff, but this gets me a little closer to that acceptance, and who knows, maybe once we actually get to a con and you guys don't run away from me, maybe then I'll accept it for real.
Right.
But in the meantime, again, baby steps.
Right. So yeah, I guess I'll close out by saying thank you to everyone who participated. LittleWolfBird, BlueLemonTree, John, all the folks who were here in the chat live. We've still got over 30 people watching live right now. Those are great numbers for us. Really appreciate everyone who came here to get something out of it for themselves, to get something out of it, to be a better ally to someone who they know has these same kind of difficulties. So just thanks for everyone. As you two just said, you've got your Catelyn Stark episode coming soon. Hashtag TBD, but soon.
Yeah.
But I look forward to that one. John, you've got a live stream Wednesday evening. Your birthday stream going to be 29 again. I can't believe it. What is this, like the 6th or 7th year in a row?
Yeah, something like that. What's
something
the point?
Like that. Anyway,
what's the point in keeping count?
Right. Just get to 29 and start counting. And then next week we'll have a much more relaxed topic. We'll just be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, the first 3 episodes.
Which, and I'll be honest, everybody, now that I have the prospect of talking to LittleWolfBird about editing my podcast, you guys might actually see that sooner than you would have otherwise. So we'll see. But looking forward to getting that to all of you. And please do go ahead and tune in on Wednesday. I'm going to say 6 o'clock. If that changes, I'll go ahead and post it. And, we'll just talk about a bunch of things, a couple of choice movies. It looked like there was some interest in me talking about Amadeus for a bit. So I think
really big, really important for you too.
Yeah, it is. So I'll definitely go there, and hopefully Aemy has seen it. If not, her and I are going to do a watch party.
I'm trying to get the cat to make one more appearance, and
cat,
he's not listening.
Big surprise.
I know.
I love cats, but like they are on auto. They don't care what you want them to do.
I mean,
all right, cat butthole, cat butthole.
And on that note,
all right. So everyone, thanks for coming here. Make sure you hit the like button. We'll see you all next week, and until then, you know what it is. Peace, and be excellent to each other.